ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to a fresh and new episode of our Two Kobo podcast brought to you by the cable newspaper. As usual, my name is JamJam, and I've got my guy in the studio with me.
The realest guy.
As in,
your one and only.
Baddest. Odogu, one and only.
As in,
That's how they hear you. Okay, drop something.
Yes, it's election season.
Money flows. You know
it's
how
supposed to flow, but we are doing cashless, so I'll do a transfer to you.
That's good.
Yeah.
Me and my account number, I'm gonna send out that. So guys, it's good to be back again. I hope you've been doing good, and it's so good to talk to you again. On this episode, we would be talking about Tinubu presidency. So Bola Tinubu has won the 2023 presidential election after beating.
The word beaten some persons will actually fight you for it, like he did not beat them.
Did he beat them or he did not beat them? He beat them at the polls. Actually, this is not violence. This is not
I think
violence.
we'll talk more about that when we get
come
back
from the short break. Don't go anywhere.
Introducing the Cable Dinner, Nigeria's first disability inclusive news app. Everyone, including persons with disability, gets access to the news, analysis, and fact checks by the cable without stress.
Back from that short break. As we said, on this episode we would be talking about what Tinubu presidency is going to look like.
Yeah. Okay,
so we have had 8 years of the Buhari presidency. We've seen all he's had to offer. Maybe not all, maybe probably in the next 1 month.
He said he has done his best.
He has done his best. We've seen his best, apparently. But I believe we've seen about 99.9% of what the Buhari presidency has got to offer. A new sheriff is in town.
True.
Yeah.
And when a man said he has done his best, you can't argue with his best.
And are you his best? Is he
exactly.
Your best? His best.
So he has done his best, and I want to believe that is his best, right? And
of course, it could have been better. Yes.
You know, one thing about the presidency, or when it comes to Nigerian elections, is that when you see one particular administration, you want to compare it to the next. You hope that the Messiah will be coming.
But unfortunately,
and then the Messiah comes, you now.
That's not the trend we've always had. It's always been economically, the standard of living it's gotten worse. You know, at some point when things got really bad with the inflation, the depreciation of the naira, the security issues, people were like, okay, this is how the trend has been in Nigeria. When you have one president, when you have one administration, it gets worse. So if that same scenario is going to play after the Buhari presidency, how worse can it get? Right? So people are trying to imagine how it would be. Like,
sure.
I hope we're able to it reverses,
really. Right. Yeah. That's actually the
But then, given the statistics, what is happening, it is not going to be an easy ride for Tinubu. That is no matter how much he maneuvers, with all his good intention, he brings in the best mind of the best policies. There is a lot of rot. There's a lot of backwardness, if I should put it that way.
And also a lot of distrust. The trust deficit is there
between the government and the people. So
not to talk about the last election and how the reservation
what people feel about how he emerged, the circumstances surrounding that election.
Sure. So it's a lot of. For me, I don't think I'm even envying anybody that wants to be the next president of the country, because
I'm like, you're seeing trouble. This is a lot,
exactly.
A big headache, and you want to carry it on your head. But because some people feel leadership is a selfless act. Yes, you're coming to serve, and they want to put themselves in that space to, better the lives of people. If ideally that is what it should be, and if that is actually what we are getting, fine, good. So I think that is, of course, there is something to gain. You can't just be all out. You can't just be all out for the other man. You have the name. I mean, you're the president of Nigeria.
I totally agree with you. And I think today's episode we want to talk about the manifesto of the Tinubu's administration.
Yes.
And one key thing we must understand is that this is a continuation of an APC administration.
Yes, one APC president is going out and that one is coming in.
So which also gives us the
a little idea
of what an APC administration will be like. And also a question I wanted to probably ask is that, can you differentiate a man from his party manifesto? That is a question, because if you can't differentiate a man from the party manifesto, we have to go back to 2015 and look at the manifesto of the man and his party, right? And see. And also not forgetting the title of the particular manifesto we are about to look into is the Renew Hope. Which also give me the vibe of like, okay, maybe hope was lost and then they had to renew the hope.
So is he indirectly saying that?
Let's not go about that. But then with the issue with the last election, we saw that Bola Tinubu won the election with about 8.9 million votes, then followed by Atiku, then we have
Peter Obi, and then Rabiu Kwakwanso.
The whole issue is saying that we had the issue of 25% plus the FCT.
INEC has clarified that, apparently. If they want to take it to court, let's go.
And also they're actually in court. But also, before now, we saw that the candidate gave out their manifesto. They hope their manifesto.
They all did.
They all look so beautiful, when you look at them.
But then the manifesto we are going to see playing out in the next... Now, I wasn't saying next 4 years, but then when you go through that manifesto, you see that some projections are for the next 8 years. So he already has it in mind. I don't think there's any president that would come and say, after I do 4 years, I'm going to leave. So he has projected, he has envisaged that it's a long term. I'm going to do my first 4 years. I'm going to do my second 4 years before I leave. So you would see long-term plans like by 2027. Very few. By 2030 something, very few. So you see that he already has plans for his second term. God help him. Renewed hope. Renewed hope.
When you renew hope of someone, it means that the hope was shattered. They expected something, and then you want to renew it. It's English. I want to believe that's English. So your renewed hope, of course. And there's a lot of.
But it's a good thing that there was hope.
Yeah, there was hope in 2015. There was hope in 2015. Yeah, there was actually hope in 2015.
I think one thing that would help the Tinubu presidency government is that the expectations that people have from his government is not as high as what we saw during the when Buhari was coming. There was this messiahship cloud, about him. People thought that when he comes aboard, everything is just going to be, we're just going to become the new London and everything is just going to be sweet and swift and smooth. But that was not what we saw.
Yeah.
What would have happened if Peter Obi had won? That would what have been played out again. It is actually Peter Obi that people have that similar feeling about. Yes, people are really some people call him the Messiah. Okay, but then because a number of people did not see their candidates emerge, they believe that Tinubu cannot perform based on as much as the expectations generally that people have from him are not as high as they had for Buhari. That is what you are seeing playing out. But what does he have in his manifesto? What has he promised Nigerians? So if we have to go by these promises, these campaign promises, and what is in his policy document, if he is to go by his words, if he is to practice what he has preached in this document and all those high stages that he stood and spoke to the people while touring across several states, campaigning, selling his market, that this is why you should vote me in. What do we expect to see?
What do we expect?
Interestingly,
And the truth is that the next, after he's swearing in May 29, whatever happens after then, I will take your mind back to 2015. Yeah. In 2015, when we had a merger that brought in the Buhari administration. Yeah. So when it came in, there were the manifesto were very interesting.
If you even look at all the manifestos of the candidates, there is none that you would see that wouldn't, if that manifesto, if we were to watch a movie where that manifesto is implemented, even if it is 90%, it's going to be some sort of El Dorado. It's going to be sweet. But then again,
talk is cheap. I know when Buhari administration came in, I think a month or two, if I'm not mistaken, then we when it was the sworn into power, we heard the word of like, I am for everybody, I am for nobody. Everybody felt like it was something. It was something that was hope. That was the hope. And then I remember then there was a particular time when he implemented, is it the TSA, where people were like, oh, the fear of him, there's a feeling that comes with it. What happened? So maybe this administration knew that, there was a hope at the point. Now they want to renew the hope. So let's talk about the renewed hope.
Yes, renewed hope. At this point in the country, what we saw after the elections, what we saw is that there's a lot of divisiveness. Okay, so that is one very important aspect, that the one heavy burden that the Tinubu presidency would carry. But then there has to be safety. People have to live and be safe before you can even carry out any policies, build any carry out projects and whatever. And interestingly, yes, that is the primary objective of a government, to ensure the safety of lives and property of its citizens.
Sure.
And I am sure he had that very much in mind when he started his manifesto with security. And what has he told us what we are expecting from a Tinubu presidency when he comes on board? What he's saying is that the security forces will exercise restraint when needed, and that they would show force when they have to. And I was just thinking, that is it the same security officials that we have, or we are going to see new persons? Because if we expect these same officials that we have, there's going to be a lot of reorientation. It's going to be they have to be worked on. We're seeing people that have spent years in the service, tired, poorly paid, and all of that. But then he has assured that there's going to be some form of they would learn, unlearn, and relearn. So if they are going to exercise restraint and they are going to show force where necessary, I am optimistic that we're not going to see a repeat of
you see that word is very when you say they're going to show force when necessary, it gives room for speculation. At what point, who determine when it's necessary to show force?
That's another aspect. Yeah, that's another interesting
who determine
angle.
When, because anybody can actually say I'm showing force at this point. But of course, there's a part of the manifesto as regards to that security. He mentioned that there will be a form of reform.
Yes.
There will be recruitment. Yes. There will be high use of technology, among other things. He even mentioned the anti-terrorism battalion.
There's going to form that. And there are going to be a special unit that would be, that would shoulder the responsibility of tactical special operations. But then, one thing I would have loved to see with his security projection, his projection for security is how long would it take? I would have loved to see a time frame, like between now and now. We are going to achieve this, we are going to do this. I know sometimes they might want to skip accountability because they know that journalists we want to fact check. You said by this time, there will not be one single Boko Haram member again. So sometimes they play safe when they are giving out this information. He said they're going to recruit. They are going to recruit these officials, and then they are going to reorientate them on how to carry out their responsibilities. But then it doesn't end there. There's going to be better and increased welfare, so that they have the incentives. The incentives are there to drive that will for them to carry out their responsibilities. Because sometimes when you see these security operatives, there was a story that Fisher Oshiyombo did about these neglected soldiers. Some of them bruised, injured both physically, emotionally, because you have spent so many years defending the people, and then you get down while on duty, and then you're neglected and forgotten. If you see if it plays out in movies, you see some of these kind of persons coming back to carry out mass shootings because they are so it's very important that they are not ignored or abandoned. Because
he mentioned about the fallen soldiers, he mentioned about their wives, their children, scholarship for their kids, and I think that is actually a good one. It's a welcome one. Since it is stated in the manifesto, I want to believe that this thing will work, right? Because the truth is that there's one thing that both of us actually have in common, is the fact that we want this particular administration to work.
It has to work. Some people would say this administration, people will suffer. Please speak for yourself.
Exactly. Because we really want it to work
for me.
Yeah, we really want it to work. So that is why we're actually reviewing this particular manifesto. So we saw the part of security. He has a lot to be done.
And then about the policing. We've been on and off about community policing,
the state policing thing, and everything.
But then we are seeing that he is his body language is that there is going to be some form of that the responsibilities of the police would be brought closer to the grassroots, so that they will be closer to the people. And he made one interesting point in that manifesto. He said that policemen attached to VIPs would be removed, and then they would be that responsibility will be to NSCDC. There is no denying the fact that we do not have enough police to police Nigerians, and then the scars are limited, and you attach them to see VIPs. Someone going out, he has 3-4 security escort, and then people that are prone. Yeah, of course, because they are popular persons, they might be extraordinarily targeted for whatever. But then you are at the risk of how many millions of Nigerians are you exposing to insecurity issues just because you have the power to have, or because you're you're in leader, you're supposed to be serving. So you're serving and then you are depriving the people. So it is quite interesting. This is not the first time that a government is saying that we are going to detach security officials from VIPs, but it will be interesting to see that really play out. Let them do it, let us see it, and then you don't have to fear for your life if the police is detached from your security
if the country is
because
safe.
He said the NSCDC officials would be trained to be able to carry out whatever security they have to provide for the VIPs. So that's
before we move away from security, I think another suggestion I have for his administration is...
You have a suggestion?
Yeah, I have a suggestion.
Probably we'll be seeing you in his cabinet, but then we'll get there.
So one suggestion I have is that it should kind of make the police force or the security agency more lucrative and more interesting for people to join. Right? Because if, for instance, let's talk about the police force.
Yeah.
If the police force have a good PRO, they have a good face, if you know what I mean. People want to join the security. So we have more people coming to join.
The hat and then the face. You're talking about the face. So what if we have a projection that is all responsible and sweet, but then what is inside?
Now, it is actually believed that if the leadership is very important. You know, that's why I said I started with the Buhari administration. There was a body language the Buhari administration came in with. People started adjusting themselves. They felt like he's an Mr. Fight Corruption kind of person. So the Tinubu administration needs to come up with that kind of body language of a no-nonsense person. Like if you're found, look at what happened in Rivers State, where the police officer was literally assaulting someone that violated the traffic rule. He violated, but you assaulted him. And the next thing I saw, the next thing I saw is that he was invited to Abuja to face panel. That in itself gives me a lot of
sometimes
hope.
They need to show us these things that they are doing. So especially when persons in power or even security officials violate laws, you don't just tell us that we are going. Show us. Let us know that it's actually happening, because
it's part of the
Nigerians tend to
building.
believe that some of these officials or these criminals, when they are convicted and then they are sentenced to prison, they just go there and enjoy. Sometimes we don't even hear about
anything
it anymore.
About them.
We just hear that they went to case and that is it. Let us know.
The justice
carry
system,
us along
exactly.
how it is going on. Don't just tell people that. Don't just tell. They want to know. They want to see it. They want to know that yes, you're actually doing it. Didn't just tell us that and these people are somewhere chilling off. Now we move on to, of course, this is not comprehensive. There is still more, and I'm very sure he has not told us all that we have. I'm sure he wouldn't want to reveal everything.
He has. He said it actually. I remember there was one particular interview he had, and they were asking him. He said, "I cannot tell you anything I want to do because I don't want my opponent to know.
I don't want to sit here and reveal all my strategy."
But that was before the election.
I remember, interviewing one of these State House of Assembly candidates, and I asked him what he wanted to. What was the capital, that main project? What was the driving force why he is wanting to represent his people? And he said that he can't say it. He doesn't want it to go public because the opposition will copy it. I'm like, Lobato. I mean, ideas are novel. You're not going to tell me how you want to execute it, but at least let us know what you want to do. If it's in education, if it's healthcare,
and then we'll talk about your antecedent. What have you done before?
So how do you want me to sell your market if you're not telling me what you are selling?
True.
So yeah, moving on, we'll look at his economic projections, what he projects for the Nigerian economy. We are not going to be seeing a lot of, if you read his manifesto, you're not going to be seeing a lot of privatization. First of all, they're going to try as much as possible to reduce the cost of running the federal government, because he might not have much take on how the federal government, the states and the local governments would, expend. So he's going to try as much as possible to bring down the cost of running the federal government. He's going to fish out and deal away with ghost workers, ensure that members of the public service do away with this mediocre attitude towards the work and deliver, so that we can see more output based on the efforts that they are putting in.
The interesting thing about the economy is we cannot lie that in the next 8 years we've seen a lot of issues. We talked, in fact, the very close ones that is still in the heart of people. Should I say the redesign of the naira that led to a form of inflation and the cost of living?
We're still living with it.
We're still living with it.
We're not yet out of that.
He has a lot to do with the economy. And if you look at it again, people will go back to Lagos. This man has governed Lagos, and Lagos have a blueprint.
Actually, he did say that when it comes to a new generation, he's going to, do what he did with Lagos.
Yes.
But then I want to believe he understands that Lagos is not Nigeria too, and those days is not these days. Sure. I believe he has factored in those, and so that he would know where to make necessary adjustments, so that it will be a reflection of the realities of this time.
True. Another thing again, when you look at Lagos as a state, Nigeria is a country. In other words, each state has their own state governors. Now have to make some decisions, because if there's something he needs to, every president needs to understand, Nigerians need to understand that the power of the president is not total. It's limited. It's very easy to. That's why when you come up to talk about you will do this, you will do that, you're not looking at the fact that other people have something to do. Right, a story was told of a particular president called governors and literally asked them, what can your state do? So that, for instance, if you say Lagos State is unique for this, other states can depend on it. Lagos State is producing something. So there's a form of synergy between the state and we are
going to see that in a Tinubu president. In his manifesto, you kind of see him preaching regional development. So he's going to focus on what each region. So the north is known for, they have arable lands, food production. So why not focus more on agriculture in that regard? If these are riverine areas with beautiful sunsets and the palm trees, and let's channel the tourism force in that, so that we can explore this thing. You have iron ore, you have natural gas. Let us exhume, let us exploit, let us explore these things that you have, instead of competing that no, these people are producing gas, we also want to produce gas. You are rich in something, so that way nobody is left out. You are doing your thing, you are excelling. This region is doing its thing, it is excelling. Instead of engaging in unhealthy competition, look at your strength. Let's look at the strength of each regions, explore it and build upon it, so that in the end everybody gets to bring something to the table. And talking about the table, he has also said that he is going to devolve powers, and that is what he did when he was campaigning from state to state. Every state he went, he tells them, hey, you, I know that you have a number of youths. Your youths, we are going to make sure that when this factory is up and running, we are going to employ them. Hey, you have a lot of this, we are going to do this and ensure that you're able to make something out of it. So he is going to there's going to be power devolution down to more power to the state government, the local government, so that it is closer to people, and that so that the federal government can focus on things that are really necessary. Too much responsibilities, and they say a master of all trades and jack of none, right? So that they can focus on some of the things that really matter, so it will not have to carry so much responsibility and eventually missing out on a lot of things. Because
once we are done with politics, governance starts. So for me, I'm believing that regardless of the party that is in a particular state, the center is very important. There must be a form of synergy. There must be a form of cooperation, because I don't want to see a situation whereby you have an APC president and then you have a PDP governor state, and then there's no
because you are in different parties.
Exactly.
We saw that play out during the Buhari's first term with him and the National Assembly, because the PDP had more hold on the National Assembly. So, but then when he came back with the 9th National Assembly, people call them the rubber stamp assembly, because they made it, let me say, they made life easy for him. Because they were in the same party. They didn't want to, every time they fought that idea that they were rubber stamp assembly. But then we saw the ease, that he experienced with the coming of the 9th Assembly. So
we know about that. There must be a form of a good fiscal policy that can actually work, that can actually even help to deal with inflation. We also look at, let's talk about water, road, infrastructure.
Yes, he noted that.
Because they also opened state to
electricity. He he said that a truly national highway system must be built to make road transportation faster, cheaper, and safer. Because how many people can afford flights? Since our rail system is still in its building process, we still have to rely heavily on road transportation. So he knows that it has to be faster, cheaper, and safer. And he says a national portable water supply campaign will be established. Now, I like the fact that he gave a time frame here and he knew exactly what he wants to do. We must commit to a Nigeria where by the end of this decade, So he has 10 years, even
10 years
2
plus.
years beyond his administration. So there has to be a continuum, sort of. No one lives more than 5 minutes away from a reliable source of water. Potable water. I mean, he was very specific. No one lives at the end of this decade, 10 years. No one lives more than 5 minutes away from a source of potable water. It's not just that you have water. This water has to be potable. Take me to the story you did.
Yeah, yes. Personally, I don't know how this is going to happen. Like, if it is realistic in the next 10 years, I'll give you instances. Enugu State has issues with water to start with because of the land and all that, the coal.
Yes.
Lagos State, as big as Lagos is, the last investigation we did, Lagos State has issues.
Lagos is an island.
And exactly, have issues with water.
In water and then you're
having issue with potable water. So this might just be a plan. This might just be like, okay, in the next 4 years, in the next 5 years, but let's see it working. Let's see him start doing something. Let's look at the state. Let's say a state is producing tomatoes or a state is good in yam, and you want to bring back to Lagos the road issues.
But then you factor in the transportation costs because we have the transport deficit issue.
And also the issue of restructuring, where most people feel like the interdependency of one state and another, which is actually unique because some states are good in particular thing, another state are good.
I think he's figured that out, and that is why he says explore what you have.
And that was one of. I feel like he did not allow the issue of restructuring in this.
Yes, it's just subtle.
It's very subtle because
but then it's there. You can see it. It is just there hiding.
Exactly. Unlike articles saying that restructuring.
I will restructure. And then people have different ideas about what the
restructure really means.
What do you want to restructure?
Exactly.
What is it that you want to restructure?
We can go on and on with this whole manifesto. I first of all want to believe it's a very beautiful blueprint. If only it's being kept.
If only it's implemented.
Documents are always beautiful. I love them.
All of them.
Which will also lead us to the team that want to carry out this work. At the end of this particular conversation, we want to talk about the people that want to carry out this work.
Yes, it's not a one-man government.
It's not a one-man.
But then we'll continue. We'll come back from the short break. Don't go anywhere.
Introducing the Cable Dinner, Nigeria's first disability inclusive news app. Everyone, including persons with disability, gets access to the news, analysis, and fact checks by the cable without stress.
Welcome back, guys. So we have been projecting, envisaging what it would be like to have. It's not so far away. Very soon we'll be feeling the vibes. But then we just want to see what we are going to expect when Tinubu becomes president. Not based on what I think or feel, but what he has said that he will do. And we hope that he is a man of his words.
That's that rhyme.
Preach. Let's talk about education because interesting. It's a sector. When people rate sectors, we talk about security, economy, healthcare, education. They are very vital. It's not as if you are, bringing down what other sectors have to offer or the importance, but then you know that these are at the forefront and they are linked in such a way that if one is failing, it will affect the performance of others. Because if you don't educate your population, your youth, you don't have a population that will bring about change, new ideas, novel ideas that bring about solutions to some of the issues that are.
You see, the issue of education cut across a lot of things. Let's talk about. There was one research I did like years ago with a senior colleague, and we're looking at prison and library.
Wow.
So we looked at states that have functional libraries. How many functional libraries do they have, and how many prisons do they have?
Interesting.
So we saw that some states have just like 2 functional libraries and I have about 11 or 5.
So your people are not reading; they are languishing in dens.
In prison. So you're looking at education. When a society is educated, crime is.
Were you able to establish a relationship between that? The more the libraries.
Yeah, for some, yes. For some, the more the libraries.
That's an interesting research.
Yeah, but for some, we have more libraries and then we still have more prison. So
because those ones decided to be educated criminals.
So we're looking at a situation whereby people are educated and it's kind of reduced crime
Great.
You know, because sometimes people don't even know, genuinely don't know, right? So if we focus on education, I feel like it will help a lot. Number one, it will help to give people job, right?
Yeah.
When you educate a society, they will learn to take care of the infrastructure.
Yes, thank you.
That is the funny part.
Thank you.
Because you can't build massive infrastructure. I look at Lagos,
you
for
have
instance.
a population that do not even understand how it functions.
You cannot have
how to maintain.
You cannot have a mega city and without having a mega people. It's not possible. I look at the massive structure, the train station being built,
and then
in
look
Ikeja.
what happens by the train tracks.
Exactly.
You have traders selling petty goods.
How do you want to have a clean city like Lagos and you still have people throw things on the floor? People need to be educated in this part of in this area. I'm trying to stress the part that education is very important. And I love the fact that Bola Tinubu looked at it in that angle. And there was one part in the education he talked about is the issue of history. He wants to bring back history down into the curriculum. Yes. Of course, you will talk about revamp the curriculum itself.
Not like a review of the curriculum so that it will cater for existing realities. You know, people are talking about a chat GPT, you know, there is some technology, there is AI, there is Meta. So
people are taking
I am still living in the era of drawing and labeling cockroaches and have never used anything.
Let me shock you. I was to create a document, a marital document, right? And I was to write it, and I was like, oh God, how do I write these things? So I went to my chat GPT and like, how to write this. And I came up with option. You know, if you also realize that some people are going to court, some countries are going to court to say that they don't want this to be used because it has been used for research and other things.
Yeah.
We have not even gotten there yet. Let's not even talk. We are still talking about building infrastructure in our schools. So he talked about bringing back history. So
quite necessary.
Quite necessary, but then who is telling the story?
And how is the story being told?
And then the curriculum not meeting up to standard. When I mean standard now, we're talking about we are talking about white collar job where we should be talking about blue collar job at this point in time.
Yeah.
Who is talking about white collar job? Who wants to?
Buhari would tell you blankly, there are no jobs.
There was a time Fashola said it that people in Lagos are looking forward to working in an office where I think then he wants to the waste management. Why they are looking for people to work there. So nobody wants to do that. You this year. Imagine somebody like me now going to park dirty. But then there was this guy that did this mobile toilet.
Yeah.
When he was using a particular hardware. You know, it just tell you that people are just visited on one particular. If
we
it's
all
not
have
office,
an idea of where
AC
we want to be,
and everything.
But it's not a bad thing. There are ways that some of these brown collar jobs can be modeled, so can be shaped that it would be inviting.
If you look back our brothers and sisters that jackpot, you know, some of them go back to
and they do some of these jobs
that they reject. Yeah, that tells you that
packaging.
Packaging one, and another thing that it tells me that there is dignity in labor in other country where you're going to.
Why is there no dignity?
There is no dignity in labor because the truth is that the in quote the accolade, the guy that is coming to pick your debt, you feel like he's just
you see him as trash as well.
There was a day I was in traffic and I needed water. That was when I knew the value of those people that are actually selling bottled water.
One would probably die of thirst if they are not there. So
if they are not there, everybody is created for each other.
Everyone provides value. We just have to find a way to make this
respect them.
Yes, respect. Really? But then that is not even the responsibility of the government. It's a human thing.
Of course.
It's a human
thing.
We're
a reflection of our society.
Yes.
So I love that part of the education.
He said history, indigenous languages as well will be made compulsory. You know,
what does that mean? Is it that I'm in Lagos now? Or I have to be
so if
Yoruba language will be...
when we were in school, like I was saying that during my era, what we were taught in school was to draw cockroaches, draw skeleton, and I have never for once in my life used that knowledge, which I no longer even have. But if I had it, what does drawing a cockroach bring to me? I'm in the arts.
Okay.
I'm in communication. So maybe knowledge should no longer be so broad in schools. It should be made to reflect this is what you want to do. So focus on it. We don't have to get to the tertiary level, to the universities, because we begin to streamline what we need. So if then we were flogged or beaten or punished for speaking our indigenous languages, they will say it's vernacular.
Yeah.
Yes. So, but then some people would understand more if they are taught in these languages. So if they are taught or they are made to learn these languages, look at Yoruba to the world. It's making it out there.
Sure.
So if these things are allowed to be flexible, there is no crime. It's our mother tongue. It is what we relate with.
It reminds me of this particular Yoruba guy. He's a popular guy on. I think I found him on Instagram. He's a love maker. I don't want to mention his name, right? He's a violent person. So he's a love maker. He do love matching and everything. And then he speaks Yoruba. And when he tried to speak English, he just messes everything up. And people kept telling him, like, speak English. You like, leave me alone. I don't know how to speak. This is what I know how to do.
Because of
he said something. He said, I know go, I know come. You understand what I'm saying? Why are you stressing?
But we understand that there are some formal sectors where there are certain languages that you have to. It doesn't mean that
English is a universal language. I want to believe, right?
Well, yes, but then there are certain settings where you have to be formal. But then, except needed, there is no that I'm speaking or learning a particular language doesn't mean I won't be able to speak or learn English. So we should also
another interesting thing we'll say before on this particular part is the student
loans. Yeah,
student loan. Right?
I say don't they plan to take loan? I see you plan to take loan already.
So when you talk, no,
I don't know if it's going to play out like we have in other climes, because if you see what it is very difficult most times for them to pay back these loans after graduation. So I don't know how it is going to work in
other climes. You take student loan because there's this assurance that you're going to get a job that can pay back.
But that is not actually happening. A lot of them are struggling to pay back these loans.
So if in a country like Nigeria, for instance, you're giving me student loan to go to school, and after that, and I don't get a job to pay back, it is assumed that you're going to give me a job so that I can pay back.
I think that what might also happen is that we are going to see subsidy removed from education. The students are going to be getting low. We might see that play out. So, because the subsidies are no longer there, education is now quite expensive that you cannot afford it. Yes, so that is why people are now taking loans, because I don't think there's anybody that wants to take loan now to go to a federal university. They are relatively affordable. Let me put it that way. So what might play out is that when student loans come in, the subsidies on education might go. Are we ready for that? And the takes me back to fuel subsidy.
Yeah. So if you're taking student loan, are you taking student loan to study in Nigeria? Or you're taking student loan.
It has to be in Nigeria. It has to. We want to carry our money outside. Yeah. So since we are talking about subsidy, let's quickly talk about the fuel subsidy. He has said it. Fuel subsidy must go, and we're already seeing it play out.
Yeah. I think it's here.
It's here already.
It is here, and it is not a. Because we are talking about Tinubu administration, we saw it. All of them agree. All the candidates agree that subsidy has to go,
even though,
which is beautiful, right? And then we are seeing that there's a gradual phase out of the subsidy.
So we're not going to sit down one day, wake up, and then petrol is now 1,000. It's going to be gradual, so that our shock absorber would adjust gradually to the prices.
And also, very recently, we saw that about $800 million.
$800 million
was actually borrowed from the World Bank, right, to deal with the issue that will come with subsidy removal.
So they know, of course, that it's going to come with some bumper, yes. So they want to, kind of bring some relief. But that is just going to be for like a month or so.
And people stressing the fact that the administration already have a debt that he will have to pay back.
Yes.
Yeah. So
and then we are accruing more
which gives us I think that is a certainty that subsidy will go.
Yeah, these debts that they accrued, that they've just borrowed. Tinubu also said in his manifesto that even though he has acknowledged that what he's going to do is that when he's going to reduce borrowing in foreign currencies, he's going to limit it, and if at all his government is going to borrow in foreign currencies, he's going to make sure that those monies are channeled into projects that will be able to fetch back enough revenue to pay off that debt. So it's not like what we are seeing now, that we are collecting loan to subsidize people's pains. We are not getting back anything from that. Maybe somehow it will translate to some form of national security issues. I cannot connect the dots. But then he's saying that if we are going to take loans in foreign currency so that we don't keep on piling and then building up debt for our generation, it's going to be channeled to projects, whatever would fetch the money back that can pay this loan. I know the argument that followed the Lagos-Ibadan train, Abuja-Kaduna, that the federal government is not charging enough to make back the money which they borrowed. So I think what is going to happen is that get ready to enjoy, but get ready to pay for your enjoyment. Even with electricity, he said yes, we are going to. He's not even promising that. He said we've had enough generation, but based on what we've generated, we're going to try more to transmit and distribute from what we have generated. We would give you power. There's going to be a lot of privatization. Would incentivize the private sector to come in, but then they will give. If you want to enjoy power, you pay for power. So,
which I think that might not be an issue with a lot of persons, but again, some people actually
we still have how many millions of multidimensionally poor Nigerians.
People in the country.
If we look at all of these things play out, it's not going to be an easy ride.
It's
not going to be easy. But then in the long run, if these things are actually implemented, what will be the fear is, are Nigerians patient enough
to
endure till this thing? It might not even happen in our lifetimes because the indices are not so interesting. They are not so sweet. They are
maybe we are doing it for our children. Exactly.
So you're very willing to endure that pain and do that sacrifice. And we'll quickly go on this last short break. And when we come back, we'll talk about what the persons that will
actually make this work.
Up
that means the government, I'm talking about
the appointment. And we'll be right back.
Think news, think thecable.ng. Visit www.thecable.ng for data-driven, knowledge-based and accurate news.
Yeah, welcome back. Yeah, so on a final note, we want to talk about the persons that would
actualize
this manifesto, these plans. And Tinubu has a toga for spotting and picking out brilliant persons. We've seen how much over the years he has projected and mentored, if I put it that way. We see the likes of Osimbanjo, we see Raji Fashola. Yes, he has eyes for talent, and he spots them and he builds them, and then he puts them there to go do things. And so we know that he has his voice. So we are seeing a possibility that some of these boys will come back and work for his government. And but at the same time, we are also expecting that, because he has promised that a certain percentage of appointments would be kept for youths. So we want to also see young persons. But then I very much doubt that his presidency would put the interest of new young persons ahead of those ones that he's already acquainted.
See, when you talk about young, their definition of young is different from your definition of young. So from 50, 56, 80 might probably be young, And let me even ask you, if you see a weekend in a Tinubu administration, what will your feeling be like?
I go shocked. But then we do not know the kind of negotiations
that they have behind the scenes, right?
So anything is possible. Right now, all fingers crossed. They're waiting to see what is going to happen. But some faces that we are looking at, that we might see, appearing on the screen.
Yeah. So for me, I would love to see an Erufai.
Well, that is what you want.
Yeah, I would love to see an Erufai for many reasons. For me, I personally believe that Erufai, with his own many baggages.
And I feel like Tinubu has already given us a hint that an Erufai will be in his presidency. When he went to Kaduna and he said that, please don't run away after you're done with your second term, because we need you. We need to pick on your brain, some of your ideas.
And if you saw that when he went to the Chatham House, he went with Erufai.
He went with his people, and then he was distributing. So we already have an idea that these are the people that's what's going to be happening. These are the people he's going to be telling, do this. When it comes to education, you do this.
Imagine having a Bayo Ononuga, and then we are having like the Festus Keyamo together as the spokesperson of this government. Maybe one as a special advisor of him and all that.
That's the vibe that the manifestos and the campaign promises are giving us. But then, in your personal thoughts, what is it that you won't expect from the Tinubu presidency? Perhaps there is, mind you, the president is not absolute. There are some responsibilities that are that of the state or the local government, and the president cannot do anything about it. But so those issues that are within his purview, within his power, his might, what do you think? We'd like to have this conversation continue before he is sworn in, and perhaps he might just pick an idea from what you've suggested, and that would translate to transforming the lives of Nigerians. So follow us on The Cable on all our social media platforms: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, The Cable NG. Let's continue the conversation. Tell us what you think about what Tinubu has said that he wants to do and what you want him to do. And I guess we've come to the end of this conversation.
It has been quite interesting.
Yes. Yeah. And then very soon the sheriff is going to take power. We are going to see well, hopefully new things, better things. But then
Nigeria will work in my time. Yes,
it will work. Amen to that prayer. Amen. Yeah. So right, guys, thank you very much for listening. This is Atu Kobu. Bye.